Okay, the next presentation is going to be about ManageIQ Authentication, and Alberto Bellotti and Nick Carboni are going to present. So, you guys, you're ready.
Testing. Thank you, John. Alrighty, so hello everyone. Today we'll go on a basic topic, how to first get into the system. So, gotta be authenticated. Without that, you're not in. So I'm Alberto Bellotti with Red Hat. Been with the company some years. Did a presentation with Keenan, the first design summit. So starting to talk about some of that move to free IP and all that. And today we'll talk over where we've been since then. So, alrighty. So agenda for today, we'll go over the early days of ManageIQ and authentication there. Some of the technology shift going from the local authentication to external auth, and we'll be in there for a while. So talk about what's been implemented with external auth. Then we'll do a demo on SAML, which was just introduced not too long ago. So after the demo, we'll go over future enhancements, what's coming down the pike, and where to find documentation. That's that. Alrighty. So early days of ManageIQ. Authentication has been primarily built into the appliance, right? So homegrown implementations. So obviously you have the default local database authentication where we store username and password and all that. But then we had the homegrown MIQ LDAP implementation. So with that kind of opened up the doors to authenticating with LDAP directories, Open LDAP and the variants, and of course Red Hat Directory Server, and also Active Directory. Right. And also we had the Amazon SDK, so for doing the IAM authentication with Amazon. So that was the early days. Okay, so what was the problem? So with the implementations homegrown, so we were limited to how many things were built into the system. And because of that, again, being homegrown systems, there were some limitations to implementations. You cannot always figure out the different variants of LDAP searches and scopes of the directories and all that. So we had to do quite a bit of enhancements on and off, right? And the problem with that also is implementation time to do these enhancements was quite took some time. So, all right, so technology shift. So when we started this path a year and a half, 2 ago, so we really wanted to go to more of a proven, authentication stack. So we went with the Apache route, right? So you had an industry-proven authentication stack, which we wanted to leverage. With that came many authentication modules that were available for Apache. So we were able to leverage some of those. And with those implementations, we're actually leveraging more of the Rails security services. We'll talk more about that later. And the nice thing with that is we have faster adoption to the new protocols that are out there. So people will develop the Apache modules, and we can leverage as they come in. So that's the technology shift. Okay, so again, going back to the early days. So what we have, so a user would come in to the appliance. Essentially, Apache would be our proxy, our balancer, but once they're in, the authentication is all done inside. So you have the MIQ LDAP module. So we would go through that to authenticate to the LDAP directories, Open LDAP and the variants, Red Hat Directory Server, Active Directory, and all that stuff. Then the AWS SDK for Amazon, and of course our own local database. But as you see, the authentication is done within the application. So that's before. Okay, so with the shift to external auth, we're delegating the authentication off to Apache. So with that, we can leverage the Apache modules that are out there. With those modules, they interface with the Linux security services. We have the pluggable authentication module where we hook in to connect to SSSD. And I'll talk more of other ones, and also Kerberos from the system. So you leverage, with your KNet, you can get your Kerberos tickets, and with that, we were able to introduce also SSO to the application. So, all right, picture. There's more to this picture, but I could only fit so much. All right, so the user still comes into Apache, but the authentication to the external sources is primarily done through Apache, right? So there's a couple of modules of interest. When you configure external authentication, the Apache conf kind of grows. So we have mod authentd PAM, which communicates with the pluggable authentication module. That's wired in with the System Security Services daemon. So once you configure external auth, that guy gets many hats. So he's the one that actually is going to be talking to the LDAP directories. So you have, again, the same list out there. Red Hat Directory Server, OpenLDAP, Apache DS, and all the OpenLDAP variants, 389 server, and all those. So that's fine. So for the Kerberos SSO, you have modauth Kerb, again, which does the web-based Kerberos authentication with the GSS API. So that's all leveraged through Apache. And both of these, SSSD and Kerberos, so either user ID password authentication, as well as Kerberos. So you have the LDAP directories, and you have the free IPA, which we supported from a while back. So again, free IPA is the nice bundle, but it's got all the goodness in there. LDAP, Kerberos, the KDC, it's all in there. So that's that. There's a couple of other modules that work with intercepting the forms on the web page and all that, but I didn't mention that here. And the last addition is modauth Melon, so the generic way of supporting SAML. And right now we've verified, and we work with Keycloak. So as far as an IDP for us. So with that setup, we also are, SSHD is configured, through as a SSSD enabled service. So you can go in and SSH to the appliance using your external authentication credentials. So that's all there. And we still have the Postgres for local and AWS. So one thing I did not show here, as of today, MIQ LDAP is still here, but in the future, that's going to be deprecated and to move all to the external auth model. So that's the picture of today. Okay, so next is external auth. So what do we support today? So free IPA, downstream project is the IDM actually project. So the free IPA, we allow, where are we? So username and password authentication. So you configure your IPA, log in with username and passwords, and that's honored with the admin UI as well as the REST API. So the reason I'm listing REST API specifically here because the new UIs that are coming in, like the self-service UI and the upcoming SD UI, make use of the REST API, so that kind of gives you a freebie, so which is really nice. So, and so that was the first. So with free IPA, you can also enable the two-factor authentication on the IPA. So same thing, you can log in to the appliance, type in username and password, but also with the free OTP or Google Authenticator, generate your token and append that, then you can go in. So that's all available today. And of course, Kerberos SSO for the web admin UI. Okay, so next for LDAP, again, configured via primarily SSSD. But the nice thing with that approach versus the MIQ LDAP, SSSD's configuration for LDAP is very flexible if you've ever done a man page on SSD LDAP. So it really can allow you to have with your directory definitions quite wide open. So users, groups, locations anywhere, and scope subs all over. So really flexible. We've tested that with our HDS, Active Directory. We have customer with the multi-domains all within the SSD, so you can log in with the different principals. And of course, open it up in Apache. So again, username and password allowed with that. Active Directory support. This is an easier approach for AD where you go into the appliance and you actually join the AD domain with the rel CentOS 7.2, the realm command. So you can join the AD domain, and that kind of gives you a lot of the configuration done for you with respect to SSD and the key tabs and all that. So with that, not only you get the username and password ability, but you also have Kerberos SSO with Active Directory, which was a big plus. And hot off the press, with Jovi's help, we just added the AP AD Trust environment. So the nice thing with that setup is, from an appliance perspective, you simply configure it to free IPA. But with the trusted domain between IPA and AD, you actually can log into the appliance using your AD credentials. Not going to AD, but through the IPA. So very nice. Nice to add. Thanks, Joe. Alrighty. And both username, password, and Kerberos SSO have worked. So. Alrighty. And lastly, we added SAML. So for now, this is the admin UI, but we've tested it since Keycloak 1.8. And that sends us to the demo side. Alt-tab. And there she is. Yep. Oh, sorry.
That's okay, you can use the...
Yeah.
Is it the beginning?
Yeah, just start. Alrighty. Okay, so here we're doing a demo on Keycloak with SAML, going into the Keycloak 1.9.4, showing here that we created a realm specifically for ManageIQ, where we've registered the MIQ SAML. We have a couple of groups and a couple of users defined for the demo. So going back to the ISP definitions, I mean, you would normally see all these SAML2 endpoints that are defined here. So, and a couple of the, there you go, the attributes that we need back. So logging into ManageIQ, this is a out of the box, so database setup. Logging in as admin. So going to the Authentication tab. There we go. So going from database to external auth. So you'll notice we've added two buttons, enable SAML and disable local login. So we'll go ahead and enable SAML. So when we log out, you'll notice we have a new button called Login to Corporate System, or Login in locally. So that would route you directly to your ISP. So here, logging in with the user created up there, going into ManageIQ with that user. Alrighty, so that was me logging in, and you see the two groups that were defined on Keycloak that came in as far as role setting up. So going back to configuration, talking about that. So similar to currently with IPA, you can enable SSO. When you log out, you can still log in as admin if you need to. But basically, when you jump into the appliance and you refresh, that SSO kind of triggers you directly to Keycloak. All right. All right, so logging back. Next thing I want to talk about is the disable local login. So let's go to Authentication. And What that is some customers really don't want you to log in as admin. They want to control all the admin accounts externally. And in this scenario, you don't even see the blue ManageIQ login screen. When you go into the appliance, you're directly sent out. There's not even a chance to log in. So this is the case where you have an admin account, but again, defined on the ISP. You log in with that. And if there are cases where the ISP or the IDP is down, you can go ahead and re-enable that if you need to go back in. So the next, so you can disable that here. We've also enhanced the appliance console for you to be able to control the external authentication options. So here it's just fetching the configurations out of the running appliance. And so we deciding to re-enable local login, that will apply it on the appliance. And we're done. Okay, so disable local login. Yep, is unchecked. And so I think I'm just going to log out here just to show with that. So with that, logging out, you'll have the ManageIQ. So if you need to go in as admin to fix some stuff. So. And that's that for the demo. Alrighty. Okay, so what's coming down the pike? So far, we've demoed SAML on the admin UI. That's nice, but we need the REST API and the SSUI to also honor those SAML credentials. So that's work in progress. There's the ECP, the Enhanced Client Proxy, allows CLIs to authenticate with SAML. It's like a wrapper over the SAML protocol. A bit hairy, but so that would allow the API to authenticate with using SAML credentials and open the door to the SSUI. So that's coming down the pike. Also, we have additional SAML providers that we need to play with, and High Runner was the AD Federated Services. So that's coming at some point. And additional things coming down the pike, we have smart card authentication with IPA, and OpenID, which will also ask, allowing us to use standard things like Google accounts and all that. So that's it for authentication. So we have the first link was enabling, that's in the ManageIQ guide. So that's for enabling the free IPA on the with the appliance console, and all the other external authentication we talked about today is in ManageIQ docs under the auth section. So that's it. So you guys, thank you. Any questions or yes?
I have two questions. One,
So the first question is whether you plan to also introduce auth support sometime, auth 2 support in the future?
I'm sorry.
Or auth?
OAuth?
Yeah.
Not directly. I mean, OpenID is kind of implemented over that framework. So, but I mean, that's something we'll have to see with our PMs. Yeah.
And the second question is whether you consume LDAP groups inside ManageIQ with regards to permissions. So, for example, in Ovirt or Rev, where the project or product I work on, so we allow the user to see what LDAP groups is a member of,
Right.
and the administrator can define different permissions on these groups.
Right.
So the question is whether you allow or plan to allow to do that, because as far as I know, the SSSD does not allow you actually to get these groups into ManageIQ. So do you have only local groups or?
No, we do. We do fetch the groups out of SSSD. So when you configure external auth, so not only we get information about the user, username, first name, last name, email, we also get the group membership. So same thing with SAML. When I logged in with SAML, you saw I was logged in, but I had the 2 groups that came in. That also works with SSSD. As far as role stuff, it's been the way it's worked before. So essentially, you would create these LDAP groups in the appliance as far as wiring them up with the related roles, right? So you can come in with a member of 10, 20 groups, but you pick basically the hat you want as far as what you can do within the system.
So it's based mostly on groups you define yourself
In LDAP, yeah. So we fetch those out, yeah.
No, but you mentioned that you define group also locally in
Correct.
ManageIQ.
Correct.
So you need to map those somehow? That's what
You have to create them, yeah, ahead of time, matching them by name, right.
Anybody else?
Okay. Yes.
What I'm missing in the IPA configuration is that currently you can only put in one IPA server instead of multiple.
Mm-hmm.
And also the dynamic discovery by DNS is also missing from that. And if you use SSH with SSSD, then I'm missing the MK home dir variable to create automatic home directories when you log into the appliance.
Okay. I mean yeah. So right now it's only the one IPA server that you configure with the appliance console. Again, we haven't had a requirement of multiple, but that's something definitely we could look into. With the SSH into, that will be a configuration we'll have to look into for the SSSD config to create the directory. So yeah, we could look into that.
Okay,
Yep.
Thanks.
No problem.
Anybody else?
Alrighty.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.